Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Hey, we did a live remote yesterday from Town Green in Biloxi celebrating Cruisin the Coast. And what I said on my show then and then with Gerard after my show was that this is a world-class event, Cruisin the Coast, in a world-class destination, coastal Mississippi. And world-class weather. We could not have asked for better weather. So if you're a cruiser and you're listening, welcome to Coastal Mississippi. We're glad you're here. You're helping us break records this year. I had the opportunity to visit Woody Bailey on the show as well yesterday. And unprecedented number of registrants. And then the number of people who are coming to register on site that did not pre-register is breaking records. I saw that when I went down Highway 90 the other day. I sensed that it was going to be a record breaker. And Pete Vicari at Vicari Auction has CBS live. I guess this must be CBS Sports, live from the Coast Coliseum this morning. 3 straight hours of the auction, and then it's going to repeat play. They spent a lot of time traveling coastal Mississippi. What an incredible opportunity to showcase coastal Mississippi through that auction on an international stage. Truly remarkable. But we're no longer a secret as it relates to the car enthusiasts that come here. Really, really amazing. But one other thing before we get to our guests, I had the opportunity to MC the annual Salute to Military this year. And I joked on one of my posts that I have worn a suit 3 times since I retired in 2016. Literally 3 times, and the 3rd time was at the Salute to the Military. But you can't say no to Adele Lyons, that's for sure. And it was an awesome event. We really celebrated the military here in coastal Mississippi, and it was great to see so many old friends. So really, really terrific event. Really privileged to be a part of it. Jeff Duncan's going to be coming up in the second half of the show. We didn't have him last week because he was in London. Actually, we could have had him from London, but we couldn't get the schedules in sync. We're going to talk about the Saints. All bets are not off on the Saints. We still have an opportunity to have a winning season. We'll talk to Jeff more about that in just a second. So now, without any further ado, let's go to my friend, the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer for the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce, Paige Roberts. How you doing, Paige?
I'm doing well. You were mentioning this glorious weather we're having this week for the cruisers. We call that Chamber of Commerce weather, Yeah,
I know you do. You know what? If you go back about a week and a half or 2 weeks, some of the models actually had Hurricane Ian kind of headed up to the northern Gulf for quite a long time. And we talked about it here on the air, and then as you saw, the model started coming into agreement somewhere in the Florida Panhandle. Then it hits where it hits, of course, and the atmospheric conditions were strange in that it was really difficult to be high confidence on exactly what the center line was going to be. And on a Category 4 storm with in some areas of Fort Myers, 18-foot storm surge, we know what that looks like here in coastal Mississippi. Just a devastating event. And unfortunately, the death toll continues to go up. But we have been there before, and I wrote something about that at my Coast Vue site. That you may seem that you don't have a future in front of you when you see all that devastation, but this is the time that Hurricane Ian teaches people what resiliency is all about, and that people will be coming from all over the country, and you'll be stronger. And it's tough to watch, but that could have been here, and thank God it wasn't. And of course, when a hurricane gets in the Gulf, it has to hit somewhere. Sad for those people, though. Any comment about that, Paige, before we move on?
Well, like you, I also was here for Hurricane Katrina and was actually running the Red Cross for Jackson and George counties at that time. Also lost my house. So yes, my heart goes out to them. It makes me think of a particular scripture that I discovered after Hurricane Katrina from 2 Corinthians, and it goes, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. And I think that's really important for everyone in Florida to keep that in mind as they move forward, because as we know, it's not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon, and it's something you have to just be present in while also looking with hope to the future.
We know what they're up against, and it's hard to see hope when they're in the midst of it. I mean, David Shoemake made the comment yesterday that he knows what it looks like, he knows what it feels like, he knows what it smells like.
Right.
And boy, do we know that well. One of the things I said in this piece, and I'll just kind of read a bar to you here real quick, is this: that you will see in your neighbors and volunteers set a sleepless, selfless, inspiring, and serving pace. And you will be further inspired by the fact that people will come from all walks of life. You will see firsthand that the storm did, in fact, wash away the confusing, divisive, and defining characteristics of our social, economic, and political boundaries that existed before the storm, leaving you with an essence of the human spirit and an unbelievably inspiring lesson about who we are and what we are to each other. And you will learn deep in your soul, as we did after Hurricane Katrina, that when the going gets tough, the world gets small. We need each other. We are all human.
Yes, and I don't know if you were still at the Sun Herald 5 years after Katrina. Were you at the 5th anniversary?
I left in 2009.
Okay, so yes, that 2010, the Sun Herald asked me to write a piece as a community leader in the 5 years looking back, and I wrote a piece and started it out with the number of minutes and then hours and then days and then years, because time is thrown into a vacuum during a disaster. But I remember one of the phrases I used was that we still had empty lots, but not empty lives. And I think that that's important.
It is. I watched a video yesterday. This guy that does, it's Mike's, I think it's Mike's weather page. He does live Facebook. Got tens of thousands of people who follow him, where he goes through the models and looks at the various storms, and he's kind of a weather guy. And he's from near there. And what he did is a Facebook Live where he drove through Fort Myers. And again, the storm hit an area that's about 1.5 million people. Think about New Orleans contrasted with coastal Mississippi and the numbers that it hit, but 1.5 million people. And everywhere you look, roofs were completely damaged, and every single home, for this long miles and miles and miles long drive, every home had water in it. And what was interesting, same kind of scenario here, that you got far inland. And because of the bays and bayous and whatever, it delivered water far inland. So you had boats, you'd drive forever. It would seem you wouldn't even be anywhere near water. And then suddenly there would be a boat, then another boat. And then, the story. But it's good. I'm sure they believe and feel there's no way they're going to get themselves out of that mess. But I'm here to tell them they will. And what they're going to learn about each other and what really matters in life this is that moment. And I wouldn't want anyone to have that lesson forced on them the way that we all have. But when you look back, we're stronger and better for it. And listen, here's the thing. I was live yesterday from Town Green. Where we were sitting was over 20 feet of water for Hurricane Katrina. And then you looked out and saw all these people in this thriving economy. Resiliency is an amazing thing.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's important to reach down and grab it in these times like the Floridians are experiencing. And, it just shows or illustrates the phrase that adversity does not create or build character, it reveals it. Yes.
I said that a lot after Hurricane Katrina, and that was one of Governor Haley Barbour's favorite phrases, and that is so true. Paige, I had, and we'll pick it up on the other side as we get near the end of this segment, but I had Mayor Knight on the other day, and man, I love spending time with him.
Me too.
Because here's an 83-year-old civic and professional leader who stepped up to the plate. And he believes there's a sense of urgency, not just because of his age, just because there's so much potential in Moss Point. And he's sung your praises, as you probably well know, because you've been a really good partner for him.
Yes. And yes, I love Billy Knight, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the delight that I experienced through our relationship. It's several years ago, I think I've mentioned before to you that I earned my Master of Public Administration from the University of Southern California. And that experience was really meaningful to me, especially in my 40s. So I'm able to use a lot of that education and theory that I studied and put it into practice with him in this city administration. So I just adore working alongside him. But yes, it's very hard work.
Not your father's or your grandfather's chamber these days, as I said before. It is a new chamber, still doing the things it always did, but really focused on community building in ways that are incredibly important to coastal Mississippi. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Paige Roberts from the Jackson County Chamber. Welcome back to Coast Vue. It's by the way, I have Paige Roberts, the CEO from the Jackson County Chamber. And as I've said so many times on the show, some of the funnest conversations actually happen when we're off the air. But we were just reliving some of those moments after Katrina, some of the not so awful moments actually, when there was a simplicity about life, and we didn't necessarily have TV, or in a lot of cases our phones didn't work. And we were getting back to the basics. And when you sort of could block out all the other things in our lives, this closeness to our family and our friends, and this sense of community that came from that, there's a lot to want about that, isn't there, Paige?
There is. The simplicity and peace cannot be overvalued. And I think especially in this time with technology such as it is, and the noise that can blare from social media, which we have every power to turn off, but somehow don't, it can really get in the way of what is our truth in life. And I worry about, my sons are in Generation Z. Those are the people currently in ages 2 to 21. And you know how the traditionalists like Mayor Knight, you mentioned, and Jerry St. Pay, they're known as the silent generation because they grew up in a time where children were seen and not heard. And then, of course, we have the baby boomer nickname and the millennials. Generation Z has been nicknamed by the researchers as the loneliest generation, or the saddest generation, which blows my mind, because the more connected we have become because of technology, the more disconnected we have become as humans. And it is really sad.
It is. It is sad. That's so well put. And I talk about it on the show a lot, that we better get a handle on it. And right. I don't know how we put the genie back in the bottle, to be honest with you. So,
not sure we do.
It's really sort of scary. Hey, I saw where the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation unveiled sort of their strategic plan, and we'll be having them on to talk more about that. But I love that it was sort of rooted in this notion of sense of place. So you go through all these like really important strategic issues around industry, and tapping into what's made them successful up to this point, and some innovation, et cetera. But then it's rooted again in this quality of life issue that you and I talk about all the time.
Yes, well, I actually am one of about 8 people who served on the steering committee for that plan. And what I loved about it was that the firm that won the bid was TIP Strategies, TIP Strategies,
right,
which actually stands
well.
for Theory into Practice.
Yes.
And if you'll recall, back in the fall of 19, they did a plan for the Gulf Coast Business Council on how they might look at projects for the GCRF BP money. And so I love working with them, first of all. And then second of all, this was very focused on Jackson County and downtown Pascagoula in particular, which, we've been heavily involved in those revitalization efforts. And it's a very solid plan that really gives us some direction about how we continue to grow, because as George and Mary Martha from the Economic Development Foundation often say, and they actually got it from their board member, Jerry St. Pei, but complacency is not an option. No. And it's true now more than ever. You absolutely cannot rest on your laurels and expect to still thrive. And that is what we're working on every day, is to create a thriving community with really good quality of life indicators.
TIP is really important. I've studied the plan that they did for Gulf Coast Business Council in quite some detail, and it has informed a lot of the conversations that take place in this show. And that is, they're very locked into, they're certainly, especially as it relates to Jackson County, a lot of traditional industry, a lot of traditional approaches to economic development are still there and still opportunities for Jackson County. But within the realm of the new economy and the reality of attracting workers to our community, they put serious focus on how do you do that? Well, you got to build the kind of places that people want to live. And that's and again, this effort's underway in downtown Pascagoula. It's certainly underway all across coastal Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And the traditional approaches to economic development meet up with sort of these new economy approaches. And that's going to give us a chance to be successful. TIP understood that really well, didn't they?
Oh, yes. And their team is so brilliant and made up of a couple different generations. And so you get some good perspectives, but having that continuity of them having been on the coast in 19 and then now in Jackson County, I'm hoping that they do some work in the near future with this on a statewide basis.
Yeah, well, that would be cool. And I hope that we can start. I like the idea of using a process. In this case, the Gulf Coast Business Council used a process or a specific roadmap, and now Jackson County Economic Development Foundation has done the same roadmap. You may have different conclusions that come out of a micro element like Jackson County versus sort of the regional, but see, by using the same methodology, you're talking the same language.
Yes.
I wish that every.
Yes. And so when they talk about Tulsa as an example of a city that really went after remote workers in advertising and promoting itself for remote workers, that was in the 2019 plan, and that's still a relevant conversation to have now, especially as you're looking at mixed use development. And then talking about, could there be a certification that you are a remote certified city so that you are attractive to those and they know that you have the capacity to provide whatever they need digitally?
Wow. Of course, with the pandemic and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the situation constantly evolves, and that's why it has to be a living document, meaning that as new information and new bits of data come in, you can make adjustments. You never have a strategic plan that's in a foundation of concrete. You always have to be willing to change it. And it's exciting that we're focused in that way. You can't fail. You know what? The other thing about a strategic plan like the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation has is you're aligning public sector and private sector people around a similar goal, a similar vision for where the county is going to go. And man, we need that. We need that in Harrison County. Yes. We need that in Hancock County. We need to understand we have in all of the 6 coastal counties.
Yes. It makes the word of the day continuity, right?
Yes, it does.
And it's like the blue economy. We're watching that unfold with USM's efforts and their School of Ocean Sciences there in Gulfport with the aquarium and of course USM's research lab. But what does that look like over on the Jackson County side? In fact, yesterday I had a discussion with a young woman from NOAA. As you know, their research arm is located in Pascagoula, and talking about aquaculture and how does that weave into our community, and how might that be something that becomes even a stronger thread of the fabric in our future.
Exciting stuff. Hey, we got about a minute left. Just real quick, what's the state of affairs at the chamber these days?
Well, we're just starting our new fiscal year, and I am reading this life-changing book, Ricky, called Dare to Lead by Brené Brown.
I've
You're
read it.
familiar?
Yeah,
Yes.
very familiar.
She is badass. I can say
she's unbelievable.
And so I am daring to lead, and we're doing all kinds of things internally and working externally. So my biggest thing right now is we're looking at what a youth leadership academy might look like, similar to Hancock counties, because I'm just becoming, the more and more I age, the more and more I realize that it is on me, among others, to develop the next generations of leaders. And that if we don't, then it's on us what happens because we didn't. And so I'm not going to accept that possibility or consequence. And so I'm just really revved up. And she has a Netflix piece right now. It's just 75 minutes called Call to Courage. And I recommend it to anyone to watch it.
I've watched it too. I mean, she's very inspiring, and you look at her background, she has so much meat in what she has to say. She's got a great YouTube channel, and there's a lot of content on YouTube. And you don't have to invest too much time in it. You can go, there's a lot of short videos, but she's just got a powerful point of view, and it applies. The Dare to Lead in particular has, I mean, if you just follow the guidelines that are spelled out in that book, you can be successful.
Yes, it is rich with really useful, user-friendly content.
We're going to not have such a big gap between the times that we talk, because I always enjoy catching up with you. There's always so much to talk about.
And
Paige, thank you. Have a great weekend, my friend. We'll see you very soon.
You too.
When we come back, we have Jeff Duncan. We'll see you after this.